Good morning and welcome. I am James Huffines, Chairman of Southwestern Medical Foundation. On behalf of the foundation, I want to thank you for joining us this morning. We have a special occasion to celebrate together, the 25-year anniversary of the Heritage Society. A year ago, we certainly envisioned this celebration being an in-person event. And as we cannot safely do this at the present time, we did not want the year to end without the opportunity to say thank you to all who have helped build this wonderful legacy society and share more about its successes it has brought us. We have the great opportunity today to hear from our good friend Bill Solomon, who served as chair of the Southwestern Medical Foundation for 6 years and served on the foundation board for almost 40 years. Bill has chaired or played a key part in all of our major campaigns. He is a founding member of the Heritage Society and will bring his reflections on the impact of the last 25 years. Bill is the perfect person to bring us such reflection today. He currently serves as chair, CEO, and president of the O'Donnell Foundation and is a member of the campaign for the Brain Steering Committee, raising funds to support the O'Donnell Brain Institute. Following Bill's remarks, we will hear from Dr. Podolsky, and then Bill will come back and moderate a brief conversation with Dr. William Dauer, the inaugural director of the O'Donnell Brain Institute. Thank you again for being with us to celebrate. I would like to express my tremendous gratitude to all of our planned giving donors, advisors, and Heritage Society members who have joined us today. You each mean so much, and please know we are most grateful. Now I would like to ask Kathleen Gibson, President of Southwestern Medical Foundation, to join me in saying a few words.
Thank you, James. And thank you for serving as chair of Southwestern Medical Foundation. It's been an honor to work with you. Thanks to everyone also joining us today. We're thrilled that so many of you can be with us to celebrate the Heritage Society's impact and learn more about the work underway at the O'Donnell Brain Institute. A special thank you I want to send to one of the most notable graduates in the history of UT Southwestern, who's with us today. We're delighted and thrilled that Charles Sanders is joining us from his home in North Carolina. Welcome, Charles. And now to welcome my friend Bill Solomon. It's been a tremendous honor to work with Bill during his years as chair of our foundation. I enjoyed our time together and deeply appreciated the wisdom and the wind in our sails, which Bill's 40 years of involvement have brought to our cause. We're here to work on important problems, and Bill is a gifted and unique problem solver. As I think about all that Bill and Gay have meant to the foundation and the school, it's hard to say thank you enough in words. So perhaps I can give you a brief snapshot of the reasons for our gratitude on a brief video.
Southwestern Medical Foundation is part of an amazing community. Your generosity has inspired 8 decades of medical progress. From the creation of the medical school, Southwestern Medical College, that you helped transform into a premier academic medical center in the world. Time after time, decade after decade, you have answered the call to give the gift of better health. And our business leadership assured a healthier future by leading transformative campaigns. The campaign for endowed chairs, led by Robert Deckard, grew UT Southwestern's faculty endowment by 5 times, beginning the resources to retain and attract the extraordinary faculty at UT Southwestern today. The Innovations in Medicine campaign, chaired by Bill Solomon, was a record-breaking initiative, raising more than $770 million and enabling UT Southwestern to lead the way into a new era of scientific discovery and build scale in quality, patient-centered care. The Building the Future of Medicine campaign, led by Bill Solomon, raised more than $200 million in philanthropic dollars to bring Dallas the William P. Clements Jr. University Hospital, a place where the science of UT Southwestern is translated into the delivery of innovative and compassionate care. Governor Clement's extraordinary gift of $100 million led the way, and many supporters rallied together to build a leading hospital in the world. Bob Rolling is leading community efforts to elevate UT Southwestern as one of the top destinations in the world for brain research, breakthroughs, innovative care, and cures. Peter and Edith O'Donnell have inspired and supported a wave of philanthropic leadership, recognizing that advances in brain research and a multidisciplinary approach are opening opportunities for transformative treatment of brain illness and injury. Our leaders inspire us forward. Faculty endowment, research expansion, clinical innovation, scientific progress, new young leaders. This is what progress looks like.
Bill, thank you always. I will turn it over to you.
Well, thanks very much, Kathleen, and thank you, James, for getting us kicked off here and for your service too. And thank you very much, Kathleen, and your colleagues for the video that we just saw and the reminder of the tremendous progress that we've all made together over these many years. We have indeed come a very long way in the last 80 years. It's particularly inspiring to me to see the growth and impact that this foundation and the medical center have brought to our community. It is also a great honor to join this particular group of friends and have an opportunity to share a bit more about the milestone that we're here to honor today. The 25th anniversary of the Heritage Society has come for me in the blink of an eye, but I remember when Dr. Charlie Sprague, as head of Southwestern Medical Foundation at the time, had the idea to start the Heritage Society 25 years ago. Dr. Sprague was determined at that time that we should build and create a more systematic effort for developing planned giving, as he had already seen the benefits of planned gifts in providing considerable means to meet the growing needs of the medical center and to help fund the evolving need for key talent. He wanted to send an important message to our community as to the strategic importance of planned gifts to drive the reputation and work of UT Southwestern forward. He certainly knew that it would take a sizable endowment to build capacity to address the challenges in healthcare which our community would face in the years to come. I agreed at the time that this was an enormously important endeavor, and together with many like-minded colleagues, I joined Dr. Sprague in 1995 as a founding member of the new Heritage Society. Many years before that decision, I had been greatly influenced by one of our original founders, Carl Hoblitzell. Mr. Hoblitzell was an inspiring and generous man. I grew up knowing of his devotion to the foundation and the medical school, both of which he had helped to start. He believed strongly in innovation and excellence, and he poured his time, his heart, and his wealth into helping build the best medical center our region could support. The more I was able to learn about this medical center's promise and potential, the more I grew to feel that way too. When I joined the board of Southwestern Medical Foundation in 1981, I was able to see the opportunities we had not yet addressed even more clearly. Gay and I have participated and remained active and engaged through the various campaigns in these years since. We've been impressed every day by our community's far-sighted vision and generosity. Through this generosity, the medical center and foundation have grown in reputation, stature, and reach. And we were delighted to see the foundation grow to over $1 billion in assets, which was a real milestone, and continue its focus on growth in the endowment. Having an assured funding source to sustain the teaching and research mission is critical to all of us who wish for a better future. I'm delighted to learn that all of the money that the foundation has raised over the years, of that money, almost a third of that giving has been the result of a realized planned give. Relationship building and planned giving go hand in hand. This is what Carl Hobbitzel and Charlie Sprague inspired us all to understand. As we build and nurture long-lasting relationships, we build collective wisdom and knowledge, and ultimately a family of like-minded innovators. It's been said that when someone leaves you a planned gift, they consider you family. We've been heartened and inspired by the many people in our community who consider us family. We treasure, honor, and remain grateful for each of our family legacies and the continuing impact of lasting value that they make. Throughout our history, it would be impossible to fathom where we would have been without significant philanthropy. We began the school through the philanthropy of Dallas citizens like Carl Hobbitzel. The state has supported the medical school to a large extent, but never enough to fund the excellence of research, clinical care, and teaching that we have long envisioned. We've worked hard in our campaigns to attract and retain the best students and faculty and to create the great differentiators that make leading healthcare possible. Our Heritage Society now includes nearly 300 members, each of whom has made a pledge to invest in the healthcare of tomorrow and meet the challenges that we have ahead through a planned gift to UT Southwestern or Southwestern Medical Foundation. In creating this innovative community of like-minded supporters 25 years ago, we knew that it would be significant, but had no idea the impact and reach it would ultimately have. We hope that those of you who are members know our gratitude. We invite those of you who would like to learn more to let us know so that we can help you to do that. It's impossible to find a mission and a cause that means more to the citizens and the economy of this region. Gay and I are committed to the mission of UT Southwestern and the long-standing connection that the institution holds in the hearts of our philanthropic community. Through the campaigns in which I've had the honor of being chair or participating, we have seen unprecedented support from leaders in our region, which has enabled the medical center to expand its size and scope and to recruit top clinical and research talent from across the country and around the world. These have been defining moments for Dallas and for UT Southwestern. And we are indeed in another of these defining moments today. In a time where leadership in medical research has proven itself to be tremendously important, UT Southwestern is stepping forward in the work to understand and treat COVID-19. They are also stepping up in another frontier of medicine to treat illness and injury of the brain. I want to thank Dr. Podolsky and Peter O'Donnell for their vision and leadership in bringing the O'Donnell Brain Institute to life. And I want to thank our special guest today, the inaugural director of the Peter O'Donnell Jr. Brain Institute, Dr. Bill Dauer, who will be sharing with us momentarily a look at what is possible as we look ahead. The accolades being earned by the O'Donnell Brain Institute are impressive, and so is the scale of this effort. Across 8 brain-related departments, the Brain Institute is providing specialized care for more than 200 conditions. They are prioritizing a collaborative approach to research and care, earning, for example, a top 15 national ranking for neurology and neurosurgery from U.S. News and World Report, with many more accolades to come. The fact that this is taking place in our city is no accident. This community's long-term vision has attracted some of the most brilliant minds in medicine now for many years. This provides the collaborative environment in which great talent thrives. I want to express our thanks to you today, who are with us today, and to all of those who contribute through current and planned gifts. Collectively, you continue to make our tremendous progress possible. I would like now to invite Dan Podolsky to say a few words. Following those remarks, we will begin a brief conversation with Dr. Dauer on the remarkable work of the O'Donnell Brain Institute. Dr. Podolsky.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you for all that you and Gay have done to both support and encourage us. Thanks also to James for your leadership and Kathleen, our partner. And thanks to you, the members of the Heritage Society and the Estate Planning Council. As you've heard from Bill, and I hope all know from your own experience, the support, confidence, and trust and generosity has truly been the wind behind the sails of UT Southwestern from its inception and continues through to this day. And finally, I'd also like to add a special welcome to Dr. Charlie Sanders, who I first met 41 years ago as an intern when I had the honor of taking care of one of his cardiac patients at the time that he was president of the Massachusetts General Hospital, where I spent my career prior to coming to UT Southwestern, and in which time he provided incredibly kind guidance to an intern awed by speaking with the president of the institution. In these extraordinary times, UT Southwestern absolutely remains committed to its mission to improve the health of individuals and of our society. And as you would suppose, a tremendous amount of our effort has been focused on meeting the challenges of COVID-19. I'm very pleased to tell you that even in these extraordinary times, we have ensured that our students and our residents and other learners continue on their path to become the next generation of caregivers. And I would like to think that having gone through the crucible of COVID-19, they will even more thoroughly understand their importance, not only in helping their patient, but in helping their communities and societies when confronting the medical challenges, which are only too frequent, even if this is an exception beyond others. And the research community has also stepped up, as Bill has referenced. You might be struck, as I am, to know that at the early days of the pandemic, there were a handful of laboratories doing some work relevant to coronaviruses. And now there are fully 220 research projects ranging from many clinical trials to improve our current treatment to studies aimed at understanding the basic molecular workings of the virus to develop better strategies to confront this. And we, of course, remain here for our patients, those who have experienced severe consequences of COVID-19, but all of those in need of help, irrespective of their of the nature of the medical condition, and to do so safely and with the caring touch which I think distinguishes UT Southwestern in its patient mission. And all the while, I can also assure you that we are moving forward as an institution, laying the foundations for what will be possible in the years and decades ahead. And I'll just mention two that are particularly important in the foundations for the future of the Peter O'Donnell Brain Institute. In another couple of weeks, we will have a virtual topping off ceremony for 2 towers on our North Campus, one dedicated to expanded care for our patients of the Harold C. Simmons Cancer Center. It's an ambulatory building to provide state-of-the-art care and a wonderful experience for our patients and their families. And that other tower will be the home of the expanding research of the Peter O'Donnell Brain Institute. Just across the street, within a month, we will cut the ribbon to open the 3rd tower of Clements University Hospital, 6 years and 1 day since the hospital initially opened. And what's special about that 3rd tower, it is dedicated as the home of the inpatient needs of our patients with brain-related illness. So it will be the inpatient home for the Peter O'Donnell Brain Institute, and offer both the experience of care that we would all want for ourselves and our family, and technology that frankly is not available elsewhere within the state of Texas, and in the case of some technologies, really elsewhere within the Western, Southwestern, and Midwest of the country. So it will be truly the destination for those in need of care for brain-related disorders. And with that, I want to then take on my other honor this morning, which is to introduce the inaugural director of the Peter O'Donnell Brain Institute. In talking with Peter O'Donnell about making a institutional commitment to advance the ability to treat, cure, and ultimately prevent brain-related disease, that led Peter to make an inaugural gift to launch it. We knew that we would need a leader with the vision to understand the breadth of both brain-related disease and the breadth of approaching that from very basic understanding of the underlying molecular mechanisms to what is possible as the most cutting edge care possible today. And following a national search, we were delighted that Dr. Bill Dauer, then professor of neurology at the University of Michigan, agreed to take up that gauntlet and join us as the inaugural director. Bill received his medical degree from Washington University in St. Louis, one of the country's great medical schools. And then following an internship in Boston, undertook his training in neurology and then research training in neurology at Columbia University, where he then joined the faculty before ultimately moving from Columbia to the University of Michigan, where he led the division on movement disorders. This is the area of neurology that encompasses such challenges as Parkinsonism, Lou Gehrig's disease, dystonias, and has really emerged as one of the world leaders in both, again, that range of getting to the basic understanding of the underlying mechanisms of those movement disorders to what are the best means of treating them today. And so it's my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce to you Dr. Bill Dauer, director of the Peter O'Donnell Brain Institute, who will have a conversation with Bill Solomon.
Yeah, and thank you, Dan, for that. And as Dan just said, I have the privilege of in effect, interviewing Bill Dauer, who I've gotten to know well over the last 6 months. And there can't be enough, it cannot be overstated, the importance that he brings to this effort at UT Southwestern. Bill Dauer, I also welcome you here this morning and appreciate your being here for this important occasion. Bill, let me ask you a series of questions and develop your thinking as we go along. A little over a year ago, you moved here from the University of Michigan, as Dan just said, where you were the director of Movement Disorders Group and director of the Morris K. Udall Center of Excellence for Parkinson's Disease Research. We're delighted to have you in Dallas, of course, and in a little while we'll talk about what brought you here. But first, let's go way back to the beginning and add to what Dan's already said about your background and tell us how you came to be interested in particular in studying the brain.
Thank you, Bill, for that question. And before I answer it, I just want to also thank everyone for being here. Thank Dr. Podolsky for those very kind comments. And I also just want to underscore what's been said about this sort of the visionary leadership and generosity of Peter O'Donnell, who has made something truly special come to life. And obviously we'll get into details of that, but I really wanted to highlight that up at the front. So to answer how I got interested in the brain and caring for people with brain disease, you know, it really goes way back. I first of all come from a family of physicians. My father is a pediatrician. He doesn't practice anymore, but very much involved in 24/7, 365 care of patients, of families, of caring. And so that's, first of all, just a basis of what I grew up in and what always seemed like, really, as a young kid, the coolest thing someone could do. From that early age, for whatever reason, I was just really fascinated by the brain. So I hate to admit being a super nerd, but I was making models of the brain even as a, sort of a young school age kid. And it was just a fascination for me from the beginning. And who knows how that would have gone. But an important thing happened to me at that early age, which I think probably happens in some way or another to everyone, whether in their own family or their circle of friends or loved ones, which is a person close to me suffered from a brain disease. In this case, my mother suffered with multiple sclerosis. And fortunately, it did not affect her, sort of thinking or memory. So she remained the incredibly bright and talented person she always was, all the way through the decades she suffered with it. But of course, it really it limited her mobility. Ultimately, she was wheelchair bound. So that brought a real, really brought home the effect that this idea of studying the brain was not just a sort of an intellectual exercise, which of course it's endlessly fascinating, but it's important to understand the brain and the mechanisms of brain diseases and how we can affect people's lives with these diseases, how we can either slow them, stop them, and hopefully one day prevent them. So I think it was really a series of things, sort of an intellectual interest, but then this really emotional experience that really brought together, to the end, who I am today. And that really informs everything that we do, and we'll get into this in the O'Donnell, from really needing to understand the root causes and basic mechanisms of disease so we can have better and targeted and more effective treatments. But also, and just to highlight, one thing that my mother used to tell me about was she's a woman who went to college in the 50s, which was not usual for women back then. Very, very bright, and yet when she was in a wheelchair, people would talk to her as if she wasn't too bright. So the physical disability kind of had people made some assumptions about her. So that also girds my other very strong passion and interest, which is what's the best way to help people understand about brain disease, but also care for patients in the most empathetic and effective and efficient way. So I think we really, as we think about the O'Donnell Brain Institute, as I think about it, these experiences have really drive my my broad interest, and I think it was shared, and sort of Peter O'Donnell and Dr. Podolsky sort of led the way. I'm having this expansive vision, not just having a sort of a neuroscience institute or a molecular institute, but having a brain institute that really tries to take on the entirety of this problem to better society.
Thank you very much, Bill. That's very insightful. So, Bill, you are the inaugural director, of course, of the Peter O'Donnell Jr. Brain Institute, which has a very bold mission to better understand the brain and revolutionize the treatment of all brain disorders. Can you tell us a little more about your vision for the Brain Institute?
I'd love to. It's a favorite topic of mine, Bill, as we've talked about many times. So, I think, as succinctly stated, my vision for the O'Donnell Brain Institute, it is the place that really would create the future of brain science and brain clinical care. I think also important is it is very broad, as I was just saying, in vision. So whether it be neurodegenerative diseases, which are common and increasingly common as the population ages, such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, or illnesses such as depression, which are also very common and important in society. In fact, depression is probably is now the 10th leading cause of death in our country, or other illnesses such as concussion and spinal cord trauma, or diseases like autism. All of these are diseases and more that the Institute is focused on and needs to improve the care of. But let me break it down for you a little to give you a sense of how we think about it. I think there really are three major pillars on which this vision will go forward on. One is outstanding multidisciplinary clinical care. And these are not in order of importance, but they're all like three legs of a stool. They're all essential in order to advance our mission and to reach our goals. So outstanding clinical care, multidisciplinary clinical care, what do I mean by that? Well, you know, individuals that suffer from brain disease have a unique challenge different than disease in other organs. If you have an illness in another organ, of course, it affects many aspects of your life, but you're able to use the brain, which of course controls all behavior and emotion, to kind of navigate that and plan and think and go to your appointments and so forth. But when you have an illness of the brain, the very ability to respond to that illness, to interact with your family, to get around, to remember appointments itself is impaired. And so that creates a number of special challenges that we need to be cognizant of to best treat these patients. So to the extent possible, this idea of multidisciplinary care is to sort of surround the patient with all the different doctors and related health professionals that they need, and as efficient way as possible that can efficiently give them the care, but also that these individuals can interact and talk to each other to make sure there's coordination so the patient gets one clear message. I want to highlight in this that we've recently launched something called a total care program to innovate how to best do this. And I want to thank you, Bill, for the very generous gift of the O'Donnell Foundation and helping to spearhead support for this program. So we're going to innovate in the patient care space itself. And innovation really is the coin of the realm of the O'Donnell Brain Institute. So that's sort of our thoughts about multidisciplinary clinical care. The other aspect, of course, is the science that we've heard so much about. And that's absolutely core and essential to everything we do. And I think there are really two aspects of this. One aspect is sort of getting at the root causes of neurologic and psychiatric disease. So what are the basic mechanisms, the molecules, how cells are interacting or nerve cells are interacting abnormally to cause those diseases? And how do we think about finding new ways to target them? Much of that effort will be housed in the new Brain Institute Tower that Dr. Podolsky mentioned. The other aspect of that, though, that's important is the idea of clinical translation. So this is patient-centered studies where we're really working with patients either to test novel therapies in patients and to see if they work, things that came from the lab, or to try new technologies on patients that would allow us to improve brain function in a whole variety of ways. And key to this effort is the Perot Neurotranslational Science Center, where we have a whole team of individuals that are focused on testing various technologies and drugs in patients. And then lastly is supporting the UT Southwestern faculty and students, the sort of community work. And we've already launched a couple different programs, one to attract the best and brightest PhD young scientists to come to UT Southwestern and train either in our PhD or MD PhD programs, as well as a parallel program also spearheaded by the O'Donnell Foundation, the O'Donnell Brain Institute Clinical Neuroscience Scholar Program, to bring those clinically focused clinical experts, those expert clinicians who really are dedicated to the top diagnosis and care of their patients, of leading these multidisciplinary care teams that I spoke of. And so together we're really both building the science, making sure that we can translate that science into patients, and then of course, bringing it in the best efficient way to the patients in these multidisciplinary care settings. So this is the vision. It's a big vision. I'm not naive to that, but I think with the incredible leadership and support, including of this special community we're talking to, this is possible and it will happen.
That's very inspiring, Bill. Thank you. So Bill, as you've pointed out, studying the brain is by no means something that's new. And yet what you've described is quite a bit more ambitious than that. So would you say more about what makes this moment in time and in this particular place at UT Southwestern ripe, in your judgment, for bringing such a transformative vision to life here at UT Southwestern?
Well, that's a great question, Bill. And I would highlight a few things. First of all, let me focus on the science. We are at a point now in the evolution of brain science where we are really reaping the benefits of several decades of investment. So many of you will remember the decade of the brain, which was back in the 90s. That created a lot of momentum. In addition to that, many will remember the Human Genome Project. That created an explosion of interest about root causes of all diseases, really, by sort of unlocking the genetic code and which genes relate to which diseases. And probably no field has been more touched by that than brain disease. So there's been many, many discoveries of the root causes, at least the gene that's abnormally mutated, if you will, that leads to that disease, or certain genes that, when they're in one form or another, increase the propensity of one to get an illness. And so, that is crucial, because with that genetic information, all sorts of studies in the laboratory that otherwise would just never be possible. It's sort of the key to open the door to start to look at what's going on. And then the third big investment, which is ongoing, has been this Human Connectome project that was launched about 5 or 6 years ago. So this is another big federal effort that deals with understanding how the map of the brain, if you will. So not looking inside individual nerve cells, but understanding how they're all connected together and how information flows from one part to another. So if we think of the brain crudely as a circuit board, we're understanding how all those parts are arrayed and how the information is processed in order to allow us to think and move in the ways that we do. So when we put all of that together, we're reaching a point where we really have a level of understanding that we quite couldn't have imagined just 10 years ago. So that's one part of it. Another aspect of the technology is we're able to look in the human brain in patients and actually manipulate it in ways we never could have imagined possible. Let me give you a couple examples. One is, based on the understanding of the brain circuits, we now can put a wire, a very tiny one, mind you, into the brain of a patient with Parkinson's disease in a very precise location and vastly improve their symptoms by passing electricity into that one spot. That's based on an ability to see within the brain, to target that thing. There's a whole array of technologies that have come along, including the engineering and so forth, that allow us to do this. And we actually change people's lives by changing the electrical flow of messages in the brain. That is remarkable. And yet that's just the tip of the iceberg, because that's happening for Parkinson's, but we believe, number one, that it will happen for other neurologic diseases, but also there is nascent work in this in the field of depression and even in memory. How can we change the signals, even though those nerve cells are abnormal. How do we do that? And Dr. Podolsky referred to new technology in the third tower of the O'Donnell, the brain, so-called brain tower. This is a machine called a high intensity focused ultrasound, where sound waves are passed into the brain and they coalesce on one small point. So we can either cause a very small lesion or modulate the function of that area to improve symptoms in Parkinson's, tremor, and we believe in the future, this will be used for other diseases, as well as being able to get drugs into specific brain regions or genes into specific brain regions that we can modulate. So it's really a culmination of years, decades of investment, technology development that allows us both to understand what's going on in the brain in a way that we couldn't have imagined, and the ability to manipulate that, quite frankly.
Thank you, Bill. Well, Bill, you and Dr. Podolsky mentioned the special connection between the local community here in Dallas, North Texas, and UT Southwestern. I understand that the NIH is the major funder of research in the United States. So could you please tell us more about what is exactly the role of private philanthropy? Is this simply to increase the amount of work that is done, or does it serve some other special purpose?
I'm glad you brought that up. In fact, that's also part of, just to go back to the prior question, it's also part of why what we're doing is possible here uniquely at UT Southwestern. So let me explain. As you mentioned, the NIH provides the sort of the large degree of that funding that we all use to advance science and care. But I would think about research funding much the way you might think of an investment portfolio. And the NIH in that case is sort of the bonds of the investment portfolio. They're going to be doing pretty much established, safe things that are kind of moving, a little bit ahead. But what's critical, and I emphasized this earlier in my comments about the vision for the O'Donnell, is innovation. And I mean true innovation, getting out those ideas, trying those things that are a little bit really even off the cutting edge, novel ways to change the brain, novel ways to manipulate genes, all sorts of things. And in order to do that, you need what is in effect venture capital. And you also need the support of the sort of surrounding community. And so the philanthropy, that relationship between this community, the Dallas community, the Southwest Medical Foundation, together with UT Southwestern, allows types of experiments, types of thoughts of bringing, quite frankly, the kind of people to Dallas, knowing that they'll have that support to be sort of out there at the cutting edge, which you'll fail often, but when you hit it, you've really created something special. That is really the role of philanthropy that is just cannot be replaced by any other source of funds. And so it's very much integral to the success of what we do and what we will do in the future. And I can't even begin to tell you how enormously exciting that is as a scientist and as a physician, and how grateful I am to be at UT Southwestern in the O'Donnell Brain Institute and to be able to sort of be in the environment that allows such innovation. So thank you for that question, Bill.
Well, thank you, Bill. That helps all of us to understand the importance of why we're here and what we do. Bill, we're getting close to the end of our time allotment. Let me ask you a more personal aspect of what you're doing. What are you personally most excited about when it comes to recent breakthroughs, and when you're thinking about where we might be 10 years from now?
Yeah, I think that's, I would highlight two basic areas, and I've touched a little bit on them, but let me dig into those. there are two. One broadly is something called targeted therapeutics, and the other has to do with what's called neuromodulation. So let me explain those. So targeted therapeutics, I mentioned that the Human Genome Project, for example, has allowed us to know the root causes of diseases that previously were very mysterious and we just had really no idea how to approach. And so one way that we're doing targeted therapeutics, and I think very important in the future, is gene therapy. So there are all types of new technologies, and many of you out there may have heard about things like CRISPR or gene therapies where genes are being put in the brain. These are changing the lives of people already. So there's a fatal pediatric neurologic disease called spinal muscular atrophy that has essentially been cured by targeting the actual gene that is involved in that disorder. So the ability to specifically target genetically these diseases is one really important aspect of targeted therapeutics. The other aspect is targeting the abnormal proteins. So proteins, particularly in neurodegenerative disease, assume abnormal shapes that damage the cell and cause the cells to die and are the root cause really of neurodegeneration. Well, we're learning through things like where UT Southwestern has invested in things like cryo-electron microscopy and all types of other technologies that allows us on a very atomic level to see the shapes of these proteins and design things like antibody reagents that can bind and block those, very much in the way like you see how vaccine development occurred in COVID. A similar type of approach is being thought of for neurodegeneration. So when I think of the next 10 years, I think of more and more diseases, including neurodegenerative diseases, being, rather than having these sort of generic treatments that we have now, being targeted at their root cause with these really specific either gene or antibody therapies that will be either slow or hopefully stop them. So that's one aspect. The other is this neuromodulation, and I can't overstate that, and I touched on it a little bit, but this idea of once there is a disease and the brain is, the information is not heading in the right, going through the right paths, how to sort of understand how that information is not flowing correctly and sort of reroute it is something that is just, I think we're really at the cusp of using things like the deep brain stimulation or the high intensity focus ultrasound, and there'll be new technologies as we advance sort of on the technological side to alter brain function non-invasively. So just to highlight again, 10 years from now, I think whether it be high intensity focus ultrasound or deep brain stimulation or other type strategies that are in many ways non-invasive would be a treatment for things like depression or other forms of neurologic disease, perhaps even some of the aspects of memory failure in Alzheimer's. And so the future is really bright. I think the understanding on one hand and the technology on the other is key, but I also don't want to lose sight of what I think is really critical. The visionary leadership that has been shown by Peter O'Donnell and Dr. Podolsky as leader of UT Southwestern, and the commitment to this effort, because it really, to get the great minds here, the knowledge that there's a commitment for the long term, not just for 2 or 3 years, but to really see this through and making this an enduring priority of UT Southwestern is something that itself is really invaluable. And so I think UT Southwestern will be the place where some of these revolutionary treatments do come to life. And I'm really excited by that.
Well, Bill, your comments and insights are fascinating to all of us. We'd love to continue on, but we have run out of time. I want to tell you again how much all of us appreciate not only your being here today, but more importantly, the tremendous capacity that you have brought to this effort. And it's very, very exciting to see what you and your colleagues are doing. I want to again thank our people that are with us here today. But to say more about that, I'd like to turn it back to James Huffines to close our meeting for us.
Thank you very much. Excellent discussion there. And as we close, I'd like to take just a minute. I've had the privilege to watch Dr. Podolsky and his team over the last 7 or 8 months. And with COVID, I just want to say that Dan, you and your team, I know have worked 24/7 weekends, and you've really put together great plans that have helped not only the community, but kept your employees safe and provided outstanding health care for all of our patients. Thank you, Dr. Podolsky, because I know you and your team have gone the extra mile on behalf of Southwestern and our entire community. And thank you, Bill Solomon. Thank you for your vision. Thank you for your service for 40 years. Thank you for what you have done and what you're going to do in the future. Your service is unparalleled in the history of our foundation. And welcome to Dallas, Dr. Dauer. We look forward to your coming success and results with the O'Donnell Brain Institute. And a final thanks to Kathleen Gibson and all of her staff, which have made this event possible today. And today is a celebration. And while it's not exactly how we envisioned this gathering to be, it is very important that we acknowledge and celebrate our success over the past 25 years. We also want to thank each of you for your commitment and your dedication to the Southwestern Medical Foundation and the UT Southwestern Medical Center. And as Bill Solomon said, we deeply value the relationship created by your support. Again, we are most grateful for this family of legacy donors, and we are grateful for your continued support and for the long-term vision of making a better future for the coming generations. And in closing here, we encourage you to reach out with any questions that you may have or how we can be of further help. You will see on the slide a phone number and an email to contact if you should have any questions or if we can be of further assistance. Again, thank you for joining us today, and this will conclude our program. Thank you.